Cabin Sports Radio.
Here comes the siren. I want to go higher. Oh, my goodness. He's doing a drive. Deep left field. No doubt about it. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Oh, baby, for sure.
Cabin Sports Radio starts now.
Lecter and Unbreakable Mike Gibbons with you for another episode of Cabin Sports Radio. How you doing, Mr. Mike Gibbons?
I'm good, man. This might be the first time we've ever done a show with the sun out.
Yeah,
It looks good.
It looks glorious. Lots coming up tonight on the show. The Brier went down. We'll talk about everything that happened there. Kevin Koe, his fourth career victory. Some interesting news coming out of the CFL. And also we'll check in with Kendra Wambold, Communications Director of Sport North, and Kids Sport NWT Coordinator. That and more coming up on Cabin Sports Radio.
The CSR Podcast.
Cabin Sports Radio brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. Check out sportnorth.com, and we will hear from Kendra Wambold of Sport North a little bit later on in the show, as I mentioned off the top of the show. But first things first, Kevin Koe, huge victory in Brandon this past weekend. The Tim Hortons Brier went down, and Kevin Koe joined some elite company, winning his fourth Brier as a skip. He joins the likes of, what do we got here? Ernie Richardson, Randy Ferbey, and Kevin Martin as the only skips to win 4 career Briers. Congratulations to Team Koe. What a tournament.
Yeah, so previous wins in 2010, 2014, 2016, and puts him in some pretty good company, I would say. Kevin Martin, someone that I remember. I wasn't a huge curling guy, but I certainly grew up watching him, especially at the Olympics, represented Canada at the Winter Olympics on a couple occasions.
Do you remember Randy Ferbey, or are you a little too young for Randy Ferbey?
I might be too young for Randy Ferbey, but certainly I remember Kevin Martin. So to win 4 national titles and be held in the same conversation as those 3 names, that's pretty impressive. Run the table too.
Yeah,
a perfect 11-0 record in the round robin. Before, I think it was Brad Jacobs' rink. I want to say Northern Ontario. They beat in the semifinal to advance to the final, and then they played a wild card team, which also happened to be from Alberta.
Yeah.
So Alberta is pretty good at curling.
Speaking of that wild card team, oh man, Brendan Botcher is quickly developing a reputation as the hard luck kid. That was his second straight Brier final loss. He's made it all the way to the finals twice, only to be defeated last time by Brad Gushu, I believe. And so, but you got to hand it to him. He was doing some interviews after, and of course, but he still had a big smile on his face. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. It's amazing that the kind of composure that you can go through a tournament like that, the ups and the downs, be right there at the end for the second straight year and think, maybe this is the year I'm against another, world-class curler, 3-time Brier champion.
Yeah.
And I think 3-time...
2-time world champ.
National champ, yeah. Or world champ. Yeah, exactly.
So they'll get a chance to represent Canada again at the upcoming Men's World Curling Championships. Also, of course, representing Canada in Pyeongchang in South Korea for the 2018 Winter Olympics. Unfortunate after, I think they finished second in the round robin, and then falling in the semifinal, and then falling in the bronze medal game. So didn't actually medal, and that you could tell that Koe and his rink were a little stung by that.
Yeah.
So I think that would have made this victory just that much sweeter, knowing that they weren't able to come away with a medal in a closely fought bronze medal game in South Korea. But yeah, you mentioned the gentleman who he beat,
Brendan Botcher. Yeah.
So it would have been a pretty memorable run for them, because they would have had to play in provincial play downs.
Yep.
Obviously, Koe won that and got the chance to represent Team Alberta. But then he fought his way back and was able to squeak into the wild card, facing off against other provincial teams, and then to take a run all the way to the finals is pretty impressive. I think they beat Team Canada, so it would have been, was it Gushu's rink maybe? I think they beat in the semifinals.
Yeah,
it was
I think
either
you're right,
them
yeah.
or I think it was, because I think it was Northern Ontario who Koe ended up playing in the other semifinal. So I think his rink was able to beat Team Canada to advance to the final and ultimately lose to Koe. So regardless, a pretty good run.
Yeah. I feel like a little bit lost in the headlines. Obviously, Kevin Koe is the skip. He's, put himself in there amongst arguably some of the greatest curlers in Canadian history now with 4 Brier Championships. Ben Hebert, also, his lead, picked up his 4th career Brier victory. Obviously, you don't get the headlines because it's not as a skip,
right?
But still pretty impressive. He also has an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
So Ben Hebert's got a pretty good resume in front of him now, too. First-time victories for their other teammates, Colton Flash and BJ Neufeld. And really cool thing about BJ Neufeld, actually, he becomes, with that victory, a second-generation Brier champion.
Cool.
As his dad, Chris Neufeld, won in 1992 with skip Vic Peters. So, yeah, we got a bit of a family thing going on now.
Yeah, that's right. This is actually the 4th time, too, that not only has Koe won as a skip, all with different teams. So you mentioned that it was the first-time victory for those other 2. But every single time he's won the men's national title, it's been with a different rink. So just kind of speaks to his talents a little bit. We mentioned running the table, too, going 11-0 in the round robin, and then the 2 playoff games. That's only the 4th time that's ever happened. I think all Alberta teams as well. I know.
I think you're right.
I know Kevin Martin was one of them, but there are 2 other skips, 2 other rinks that also went undefeated and then won the Brier. So pretty impressive. And speaking of the dominance of Alberta, it was Chelsea Carey's rink who won the Scotties Tournament of Hearts last month, right? So you win in the Brier, win in the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. So both teams from Alberta now will represent Canada during the men's and women's World's Curling Championships. So the women's, I believe they start actually this weekend.
I think you're right, yeah, because the men starts
Denmark.
March 30th. Goes March 30th to April 7th in Lethbridge. So, yeah, I believe the women's would precede that by a week. So, lots of incredible curling coming up. You mentioned, Kevin Koe, the remarkable thing. I mean, lots of remarkable things about this victory, including the final shot there.
Right.
The double to win it. Pretty dramatic fashion. But the fact that, he's won with 4 different teams, and at the same time, while the tournament was going on, TSN was running a poll with viewers, basically saying who are the greatest Canadian curlers of all time. Kevin Koe didn't make that list.
Wow.
And Ben Hebert had some things to say about that. He said, you know what? The fact that this guy has 4 Brier championships with 4 different teams,
right?
Who's the common denominator here? Yeah, and he's got a good point. How do you not put that guy in the top 10 now?
And clearly he'll get a chance to extend upon those 4 Brier championships. Obviously, we'll get an invitation to the 2020 Brier and will represent as Team Canada, being the victors during this past weekend's tournament. So more Briers are certainly not out of the question. So you would think that after this, and depending on how he does during the Worlds, and then who knows in 3 years' time or whatever it is, when there are play downs again for the next Winter Olympics, if that's something he can squeak his way into as well. So his story is far from over. So you think he could squeak his way into that conversation. Yeah, probably not the last we've heard from Brendan Botcher, too, I would think. If he's made it there the finals twice, he's going to be looking for a third kick at the can. And that's a very young team, too. So, yeah, they've got a bright future ahead of them as well. But for now, congratulations to the Kevin Koe rink. As we mentioned, they move on to to represent Canada at the World Men's Curling Championships in Alberta, in Lethbridge, March 30th to April 7th. Really random fact before we close out our little Brier chat here. I actually played hockey against BJ Neufeld. Okay. He was a really good hockey player, too. And now, world-class champion curler. Some people just have it all, you know? They're just good at everything.
Are you a good curler?
I am not a good curler. No,
we do not share that.
Okay.
No.
No, he was, I think in Pee Wee hockey, he played for Gimli in Manitoba. Yeah, really good hockey player, but just decided at a certain age, I think around 11 or 12, he was like, you know what? Curling is where my heart is at. And I remember actually when he quit hockey, because he was one of the best players that we played against. And, one year he just decided, nope, I've had enough dedicating my time to curling. And we were like, okay, good. We don't have to play against him anymore. Perfect.
It paid off for him as well.
Paid off for everybody. Yeah. All right. Cabin Sports Radio will be back. We will hear from Kendra Wamble live on the phone from Spruce Grove, Alberta, when we come back.
The Cabin Sports Radio Podcast, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Welcome back to Cabin Sports Radio. Joining us on the phone is, used to be in-office communications person for Sport North, Kendra Wamble. She is now joining us from Spruce Grove, Alberta. How you doing tonight, Kendra?
I'm good. How are you, Scott?
Not bad. How's life? You're not in the territories anymore.
No, I'm not. I'm not in Yellowknife anymore. We are moving, I guess, kind of still moving back to Alberta, where my husband and I are from. We've sadly decided to leave the north. It was a tough decision, but it is a decision that's good for us.
Yeah.
We are currently. I'm currently in Spruce Grove, actually just sitting at the kitchen table doing my Sport North job.
Lovely.
Thankfully.
Enjoying a cup of coffee, I hope.
Exactly, yes.
Fantastic. Okay, well, good to hear from you. It's been a while. Did you have fun at the Canada Games?
Oh, the games were absolutely amazing. The city of Red Deer and the Red Deer Host Society did an incredible job preparing for really a lot of people to come to Red Deer across the country. The volunteers who came from all over the place, not just Red Deer, but as well as the rest of the province, and I'm sure some of them were from out of province. They did a spectacular job. It was very well organized games, and the Team NT was well represented. I know last week I think you guys talked to Wilson, who was our judo athlete who won our bronze medal, and Team NT. The kids did amazing. Our coaches, they represented us well, and we were proud of everybody. And it was just everything's go, but it's hard to kind of take a moment and sit back a little bit and just really appreciate all the hard work that's went into that. And it was absolutely spectacular just watching all of those kids hit personal bests and just really celebrate all the work that they put into leading up to these games.
Awesome. Yeah, we have heard nothing but good things. Obviously, Ollie was and Sarah were down there with you for a time, and I've heard nothing but glowing reviews from all the organizations and just the whole operation in general. So yeah, that's awesome to hear. Of course, anyone who has dealt with Sport North and has dealt with you at Sport North probably knows that you are also the Kids Sport NWT coordinator for the Northwest Territories. And so the Kids Sport Community Equipment Grant deadline is coming up. What do we need to know about that?
Yes, so the Community Equipment Grant has two funding cycles, spring and fall. And the spring deadline is Friday, March 15th at midnight. So we are looking to get those applications in to us by midnight on Friday. People who can apply are community and sport organizations, schools, local sport clubs, and they can apply to receive a grant ranging in $500 to $2,000. This money is there to support projects that are that may not have the funding that they can receive elsewhere. So these are lots of teams if they need to, not teams, but sport organizations if they're putting on different camps and events and stuff like that, if they need things like pennies and pylons and soccer balls, or schools if they're just running low on sports equipment, they can apply for things like that. So we've had lots in the past do floor hockey equipment, So that kind of thing. It's quality participation-based sport programs, and we are here kind of to offset the cost of sport equipment. And this may include new programs. If you're thinking of starting up something in your community or even in Yellowknife that's new, you can do that, or you can expand something that's existing.
Okay, awesome. And so you said the deadline for that is March 15th?
Yes, Friday, March 15th at midnight.
Okay, and how do people apply? Do they just send you an email and you send them a form, or is there something on the website?
Yeah, so there is something on the Kids Sports section of the Sport North website, and there's a form there under the Community Equipment Grant tab, and if they go all the way to the bottom, they can download that, so that the first part there talks about what the grant is, the application process, the evaluation criteria, and it kind of walks you through how to apply and stuff like that. And then there's the application there at the bottom for you to download. And my email is all over that. So if people have questions, definitely just send me an email or give me a call, and I'm happy to answer those beforehand. I'd rather answer the question beforehand than somebody misinterpret something and then get denied their grant application. So, yeah, questions are good.
Okay. And obviously this program has gone a long way for, like you mentioned, some new sport organizations and, some ones that have existed for a while already in the past. So, yeah, definitely, if you are looking to get a new sport program up and running in the Northwest Territories, definitely worth your while to look into the Kids Sport Community Equipment Grant. One a little bit further off, but good to get ahead of it and make sure people have all the information they need. The Rising Star Program. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so the Rising Star Program is it's a program that provides funding to athletes that exhibit potential in their sport of choice, and they want to receive additional training through a camp format. So the age range for this is females between the ages of 11 and 15, and males between the ages of 12 and 16. So it's kind of that preteen to teenage age. And if they have a camp that they are interested in going to, this can be in the territories or it can be down south in a province somewhere. And it's kind of, the idea of this is to generate long-term athlete development in the sport of their choice. So we've got lots of kids who looking at leading up to the Canada Games, and at the Canada Games, lots of kids who show tremendous potential. So maybe they want to receive some additional training through a camp format this summer. So something like this could help them with the costs of that.
Okay. And the deadline for the Rising Star application is?
Yes, that is May 31st this year. So again, midnight, May 31st. We're a little ways off, but the application process does require them to be registered for a camp. So that's why we're talking about this now, so people can get registered and get all their ducks in a row and apply before May 31st. Okay.
And so does the application period start at a certain date, or if they're registered at already for a camp, maybe like this spring or summer, can they fill out an application like tomorrow?
Yes, so the application is live now as well. It's on the website as well. So it's, again, sportnorth.com, and then under the Rising Star program there on the front page, they can click on that and download the application the same way as the Kids Sport Grant. Okay, and so if they have any more questions about that, are you the person to go to, or who are they looking to? This would be Rita Mercredi. Okay. So again, Rita's information is all over our website for this, as well as the application. So they can send her an email, give her a call, whatever they're more comfortable with. Okay, sounds good. So yes, all of that and more on the website, sportnorth.com. You can look for that. Everything else, Kids Sport as well. If you're not necessarily looking for the Kids Sport Community Equipment Grant and just looking for the regular individual grants, obviously you can find that and information for that as well. And or just get into contact with Kendra, because you probably miss her voice and smiling face. Yes, happy to talk to whomever.
Perfect. Okay, Kendra. Well, happy to have you still working for the Northwest Territories for however long that happens to be. But, if we don't talk to you again, then all the best in the future. It has been so nice working with you and getting to know you. And yes, all the best from this point on, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. You guys have been great to work with, and we're so happy to have this spot here on Cabin Radio. And kind of this, if there's any TSOs listening, they are able to actually plug whatever they're doing in this spot as well. It's not just for Sport North to promote what we're doing. It's for our TSOs as well. So again, if anybody wants to promote what they're doing as well, they can also contact me to talk to you.
Absolutely. Okay. So Kidsport Community Equipment Grant deadline this Friday, March 15th. Rising Star applications, the deadline is May 31st. Again, sportnorth.com for all that info and application forms and everything else. Kendra, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott.
Cabin Sports Radio.
Cabin Sports Radio brought to you by Sport North. Check out sportnorth.com for more. We just talked with Kendra Wambold of Sport North, who just moved out of province down to Spruce Grove, Alberta, and wishing her all the best in her future endeavors. And with the rest of her time for Sport North, anyway, after that, that's fine. Whatever. No, Kendra's done a great job for them, and she's been great to work with for sure. So definitely wishing her all the best from us here at Cabin Sports Radio. Not tomorrow, no, Wednesday, the opening day of unrestricted free agency for the NFL. However, today was the first day that clubs were permitted to contact players and player agents and enter into contract negotiations and hopefully get something in place before Wednesday, or at least, go into a kind of a feeling out process and the players kind of get an idea as to what they're looking at when that day happens on Wednesday. Some pretty interesting names being thrown out. Of course, Nick Foles, former Super Bowl champion with the Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone was kind of wondering where he was going to end up.
Yeah, so I believe it was March 5th where franchises could either choose to apply or not apply franchise tags to select players on their roster as we approach unrestricted free agency period on Wednesday here. So today was the first time that management, staff with other teams could reach out to those dozens. There's well over 100 unrestricted free agents about to hit the market. We figured Nick Foles would probably be one of the first dominoes to fall, especially as Carson Wentz gets ready to work his way back into the regular rotation for the Philadelphia Eagles. And we now know that Nick Foles intends to sign a 4-year, $88 million deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then afterwards, the team will release Blake Bortles, so Foles will slide into that starting quarterback position. Of that $88 million, over $50 million guaranteed. So
not bad.
Looking pretty good.
Not bad
for Mr. Nick Foles, who will be very fondly remembered in Philadelphia for bringing them their first championship, their first Super Bowl over Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. And
still kind of baffles me, the decision to let him go. I mean, Carson Wentz is a fine quarterback too, but
yeah,
I don't know.
A lot of really interesting reports coming out at season's end about just the kind of locker room guy that Carson Wentz is, and he sort of took issue with some of those reports, basically suggesting
that they're like questioning his character,
his leadership, mostly his character, though, that he's not a great locker room presence. He's not the type of leadership person you would expect at that quarterback position. And he did take offense to that, and
as you would,
said that it would be something he would be conscious of moving forward and work on. And I think for a lot of people, the writing was on the wall that, between the two, Wentz is more talented. Foles brought them to greater heights, wasn't able to this playoffs again when Wentz was down again.
Right.
So we kind of figured that he'd be on his way out. So definitely one of the crown jewels of this free agency period. Trey Flowers, defensive line for will be moving to the Detroit Lions, signed a 5-year deal with them. One of the Patriots' best pass rushers in recent seasons, so he might be missed in New England. That deal around $16 million a year, so he was another one of these top 5, top 10 free agents that we figured we'd hear something, and we have. And then Landon Collins signing a 6-year safety, signing a 6-year, $84 million deal with the Redskins, leaving the Giants. So still some big targets left. Probably the crown jewel of this free agency period in Le'Veon Ball of the Steelers. We know he's probably on his way out of town.
Yep.
And then also Earl Thomas, safety for the Seattle Seahawks. So
always interesting when a player decides to sign elsewhere within the same division. You got to wonder, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you bringing that upon yourself?
Yes.
You play that team like several times throughout the next season. I don't know, but maybe it's just someone who enjoys a chip on their shoulder.
You'll never see, rarely do you see trades from one management group to another in a division, but yeah, pretty interesting when you see that sort of lateral move to a division foe, and you're going to play them several times throughout the course of the season, so there could be some bad blood there.
Especially leaving New York, too.
Yeah.
It's like, there's going to be even more. You were in the limelight as it was. Now there's even more light on you because you are now the enemy.
Yeah, no, certainly.
I don't know. That'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see next year the first Redskins game back in New York. But interesting stuff with the NFL. Obviously, that will continue as the free agency period officially begins on Wednesday. We may see the first contract signings happen.
You hope it's nothing like what we've seen with the MLB. The Blue Jays' Marcus Stroman vocal again today, and he was supporting his fellow pitchers this time around. Dallas Keuchel, Craig Kimbrell, still some high-end either starters or bullpen players without contracts.
And he was campaigning for them?
He was campaigning for them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, his competition, his rivals, some even divisional foes, because it's been a slow free agent. We've seen the big ones go, Bryce Harper, Nolan Arenado, and Manny Machado, as we touched upon last week. But even from a pitching position, there's some quality A-level type talent still out there, still not signed, and we're 3 weeks away from the start of a new season. So hopefully not as slow as we've seen in the MLB.
I mean, these guys are probably going to get brought in somewhere at some point, but it actually, when you think about it, it does kind of make sense that a pitcher, that doesn't really have anything to do with their negotiations. Obviously, they're not, it doesn't concern them, but at the same time, why not lobby for them? Because if they sign a massive contract, it then puts your contract in a bit of perspective and perhaps helps you get a raise down the line.
Yeah.
So, in the end, why not campaign for your fellow players who have yet to find a job?
Right.
As we head, looking north or south of the border, depending on which way you want to look at it, sticking with football, that is, the CFL has embarked on a very interesting project which started this past October. CFL Commissioner Randy Ambrosie has been working on what he's calling CFL 2.0, which is basically a long-term globalization project looking for new opportunities to further the CFL brand. As I mentioned, began this past October and recently included a trip to Mexico to host the CFL Scouting Combine as well as the CFL Entry Draft. They were also doing some pitching to Mexican broadcast networks down there, basically trying to get the CFL game picked up by some television networks.
Right.
Pretty interesting idea.
That's a pretty cool way to grow your brand, right? And Ambrosie's been pretty aggressive on this front, which is pretty cool. The whole CFL 2.0 blueprint also has meetings scheduled for Germany, France, Austria, other European countries. So it's pretty cool, this idea of growing the brand of the Canadian Football League. And what better way to do that than to secure television deals, right? And talent, there seems to be plenty in Mexico. I believe it was Liga do Fútbol Americano Profesional.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
So that's sort of an affiliate. I guess you could say they're Mexican counterpart.
Right.
Similar type league. I think it's an 8-team league, mostly teams centered in the Mexico City region, but a huge, sprawling city, 21 million people or something like that.
A lot of potential viewership there.
Right, yeah. So how exciting would that be? And talent obviously is there. There's already some optimism with the combines and some of the athletes they've been able to draw, not only from this league, but Mexican university seniors, other athletes who have graduated from university, maybe haven't played in a couple of years. This is probably a much more realistic shot for them at playing professional football, certainly than the NFL, you would think.
Yeah.
And, you like to think that there'd be some families, if there's Mexican players playing in the CFL, that they'd like to watch on televisions in Mexico. What better way to grow the league?
It's interesting, too, with the history of the CFL. Of course, in the early to mid-'90s, the CFL tried a little experiment south of the border. They launched five franchises, the Baltimore Stallions, or the Baltimore Colts, then Baltimore CFLers, then Baltimore Stallions. Oh, what a mess that was. The Shreveport Pirates, Sacramento Gold Miners. Oh, there was a few more. The Memphis Mad Dogs.
Okay.
Oh, I'm forgetting one. Oh, the Las Vegas Posse.
Oh, wow.
That was another one.
Okay.
And I think there might have been a fifth one, too, that I'm forgetting. But that happened, I think, in 1993. Shreveport Pirates.
Oh, wow.
That was the fifth
Very
one.
good.
Wow, I'm
That's
impressed
good.
with myself.
That is good.
I think 1993, I might be mistaken, but I believe that was the first year of CFL expansion into the U.S., and that was with the Sacramento Gold Miners. It was a failed experiment. It lasted, I think, maybe 4 seasons in total with the Baltimore franchise, who actually won a Grey Cup, and as a trivia question, are the only non-Canadian franchise to win a Grey Cup in CFL history. But that was a huge disaster. It was just not executed properly, and I feel like the timing wasn't right either. However, it's interesting that years later, there are still CFL fans, dedicated CFL fans in America because of that project.
Yeah.
What was, seen by longtime CFL fans and just media in general seen as a flop, unfortunately. It's interesting how it has endeared the CFL game to people south of the border. There are still many CFL fans in several of those cities to this day. But this is a new phase. I feel like Randy Ambrosie is a very ambitious commissioner. Yeah. There's been some really good commissioners in the CFL in recent years, ones that have had really forward-thinking, ambitious ideas such as this, but I don't think anything quite of this stature.
Right.
He is trying to make a real impact and really grow the game, and this is an interesting way to do it. And reports coming out that actually Randy Ambrosie saying himself that as a result of this trip, they already have 2 Mexican television broadcast networks that are putting in contracts, or at least negotiations for contracts. So they're negotiating with a couple of those channel or networks right now. So we'll see where it goes. Could be really interesting.
Right, and we've seen several other professional North American leagues do this type of thing, but not quite as seriously. Announced last week, actually, that the Raptors will play the Rockets, I believe, in Tokyo.
Okay.
To open their season next year. So there's always been these sort of global series.
Yeah.
Mid-season you'll have 2 NHL teams play somewhere in Europe. Lots of there's a huge following for basketball in Asian countries. So you'll see. Usually it's preseason games, and the same with the NHL as well. You get the odd, series going out to London.
I think we had a game in China.
Right?
Am I mistaken?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you'll generally regular season type games, or even preseason type games that don't carry too much meaning. It's great for the sport from a branding perspective. You can get in front of a whole new set of eyes as you try to get into different markets. But they're really trying to establish the groundwork now, it seems, by holding a combine like this, generating that type of interest. It seems like they've got a good partner potentially in the LFA. Their commissioner seems just as excited.
Yeah.
Maybe even more ambitious. thinking maybe there's a possibility to get a CFL team in the LFA or vice versa. They do play differently, however. I believe the LFA follows traditional American football rules with the 4 downs. Obviously, Randy Ambrosi is going to have his critics, and he has just being a little too ambitious, eyes bigger than his stomach type thing, especially as they're approaching new CBA talks just within the CFL right now. And then
interesting timing that way, actually.
And then also you've got domestic expansion with Halifax. Potentially, or that's official.
I believe, that was made official.
Yeah. So they're already growing within Canada. They have upcoming CBA negotiations. So there are those critics out there saying that the time is not now to embark on this pretty impressive campaign, but this could be a win.
I mean, I don't think, and I don't know, because they haven't revealed more than they've had to necessarily about this project. Like, we know that the idea is to grow the game and grow revenues because, more money, everyone's happy. But I don't know that the end goal is to have a CFL franchise in Mexico. I feel like that would be a bit overly ambitious. But we'll see where it goes. Obviously that adds a whole new set of logistics to scheduling and that sort of thing that the CFL hasn't had to worry about since that mid-90s project with the U.S. expansion. But who knows? I think they're just going to kind of start with TV contracts and see where they can get there. And then who knows where it goes from there.
And that starts by getting more international players playing.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you secure those television deals with whichever country you decide to partner up with. But I do agree, too, that the idea of a franchise in another country's league is probably far too ambitious at this point, but increasing viewership, never a bad thing. Never a bad thing.
So, very interesting to see where that will go from here. Just a couple CFL notes, off-season notes to pass along. Also, Travis Lulay, longtime quarterback for the BC Lions, announced his retirement this past week. Had a fantastic career, won a Grey Cup in 2011 with the BC Lions, and really regarded as just one of the good guys of the game. I don't think there was anyone that you would find that would say a bad thing about Travis Lulay. Always had a big smile on his face. Really good quarterback for the Lions. Had some injury troubles the last few years of his career, but it seemed like every time the Lions needed someone, he was the guy that came to the forefront and kind of picked the team up by its bootstraps and found a way to get it done. So congratulations to Travis Lulay on a fantastic career, and salute him in his future endeavors for sure. And one last thing, Ricky Ray, report came out the other day that he still has not given the Toronto Argonauts really any indication of what he is thinking with his career. He's 39 years old. He suffered a pretty bad neck injury last year that ended his season. Don't really know. He's obviously still got some of the fire inside, because you would think if he didn't, this would have been a very easy decision to make. You suffer a neck injury. You're 39 years of age. Probably time to pack it in. But it sounds like he's still not sure. There's definitely something inside that is nagging at him to continue playing. So we'll see where it goes. Obviously, one of the greatest CFL quarterbacks of all time, as it is, regardless if he happens to come back and play another season. So that will be interesting to follow up on as well as that develops.
Cabin Sports Radio. Download the CSR podcast at cabinradio.ca.
Cabin Sports Radio, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. We are a couple weeks into the MLB spring training season, and for a Blue Jays fan, this is always a good time. There's always lots of optimism. Anything could happen. There's nothing to worry about. Nothing is counting really at this point. There's nothing but good things to potentially look forward to until the season starts. However, a couple weeks in, and there's already a little bit of trouble on the Blue Jays front.
You can look at this in two ways, I guess. So the story coming out on Friday, Blue Jays star third baseman prospect Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Diagnosed with a grade 1 strain of his left oblique. We had to Google what an oblique was.
We're not doctors.
Before the show. It's what, an abdominal muscle?
Yeah, kind of like beside, the side abdominals, that area.
Yeah. So the Blue Jays are in Dunedin, as we know, for spring training right now. Grapefruit League play. They're getting to play against some of their rivals. It's a great opportunity for prospects, people who are fringe roster players come season start. Good chance for them to get a feel, get their timing, their rhythm down. We know that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It has star potential, potentially right even out of the gate. Just made an absolute mockery of minor league baseball. His slash line was unreal through single A, double A, triple A, you name it. So he's ready to play now.
Right.
The good thing, if there's never anything good when someone gets injured, but if there is a silver lining for the Blue Jays, it's that this kind of allows them now to effectively retain him for one more season. The reason being, he won't get service time. This almost surely means that he will not be ready to play on opening day.
Right.
We're looking at about a 3-week recovery for this injury. Something to remember about him, he has a really aggressive swing. 19 years old, 6'2", 250 pounds. He's a big boy.
He is a load.
Yeah, he's a big boy. And he has insane power, and it comes from his extremely aggressive approach at the plate. So it was during, I believe, his last at-bat in his last game on Friday as part of the Grapefruit League that he sustained the injury. So looking at a 3-week recovery period, 1 week with no play whatsoever, just allowing his body to heal. But now the public rationale can sort of change a little bit from a Blue Jays management standpoint. Instead of saying, we're going to hold him down in the minors as part of his development for the next couple weeks, and not, if they don't have him on their roster for the first 15 days of the season, they can retain him for one more season, just based on him not hitting the required days for service time to allow for one more accrued year.
Okay.
So that effectively means that, 4 year, whatever it is, whatever his agreement is, down the line, they will be able to retain him for one more additional year, which they would obviously want to do because he's got superstar potential. So now they can get him that rest he needs and bring him up as they need to once he's healthy. The interesting thing that's also sort of coming out of this, a little bit of weight shaming, I guess is how I'll word it, but there is some concern, this coming from analysts, that within the Blue Jays organization, concern might not be the right word, but it's something, his size is something they are conscious of.
Yeah. I mean, it's the first thing that jumps out at you about him, right? You look at, and I mean, I didn't see like a video, or I hadn't looked up any pictures of him until this spring training season started. And I remember seeing him, on TV for the first time, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
How is he 19? He's got the body of a 37-year-old.
Yeah, 19 years old, 6'2", 250 pounds, raw power, strong
Oh, absolutely.
Kid. But, at this point, there might have to be some dietary restrictions put in place or something like that. You don't want to shame people, but this is a conversation that is happening within the Blue Jays organization, their training staff, analysts. It's been brought up. Like I said, I don't think concern is the right word, but it's something they need to monitor.
Right.
And from a durability standpoint,
it's a long season.
Right. It's an 162 game season. And I know he would have played a lot of minor ball, but he's definitely going to the show. Next month. It's going to happen. He will make his debut with the Toronto Blue Jays sometime in April, after their first 15 days or so. And we're in spring training here, Grapefruit League play, and he's getting injured on an at-bat. And his swing he's not going to change his swing.
No.
So there might have to be other adjustments that have to be made if he would like to increase his durability.
After we did a little research and found out what oblique muscles were, it's like, I feel like we've pulled those a few times, and slow pitch. When you're just lining up a ball, it's just looking nice and juicy, and you just swing with everything you got, and you miss it completely. Yeah. Ooh, that hurts.
Imagine doing that at a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, right? You're gonna torque like that, and you're gonna miss maybe a third of them, or make no contact at all. They're not ducks coming in like slow pitch balls. We've got much less of an excuse. We do, yes, and we are also not 19 years old and not superb athletes. Yeah. But you know what? Regardless, weight shaming or no weight shaming, if he starts socking dingers over the fence, no one's going to be too worried about him. And I don't think there's any question. He will do that. He will sock some dingers, assuming he stays healthy. That's right. Doesn't tear his right oblique next time. That'll do it for another episode of Cabin Sports Radio. Thank you so much for joining us. We, of course, will be back next Monday. Will you be back? I will be. You'll be back. I'm here. Okay. Yeah. Your last Monday, then Mike's out of here for a couple weeks. We will talk to you then.